Welcome back to the Hot Rod Hangout Podcast.
Whoop whoop.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Ashley.
And tonight we have special guest in the house, Scott Rogers from SWAPIT Fast.
Hey, how's it going?
And his better half, Bonnie.
Hi.
So, basically, what got you into this crazy car obsession?
I've been a gearhead all my life. I'm building cars in my dad's driveway, oil on the concrete. Yeah, he wasn't real happy about that sometimes, but yeah, we were building old school motors, old engines. You know, we didn't have the techie stuff that's out there today. We were doing it with the Craftsman tool set that we got for Christmas, and buying car parts and hopping up our cars.
All
you
right.
know, I remember a '65 Mustang convertible that I had, that a dual quad tunnel ram hanging out of the hood. Jerk. First time I pulled the wheels off the ground, I had no idea what happened. The steering wheel went limp. But that's the kind of cars we used to build.
Yeah.
Sweet. So, what car that you currently have is your favorite car just to drive? Get in and drive it.
Well, it's a truck. It's not a car.
Okay.
It's pushing 30 years old. It's not an antique yet, I guess, but it's a 96 Chevy Silverado crew cab dually with a 6.5 turbo diesel in it. And I love that. I love the rattle.
Mm-hmm. Heck yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy my diesel as well. So, unlimited budget, someone just come up to you and said, money's not an object, build whatever you want to build. What's that car in your head? Every car guy has that car that just, they want to build.
Well, I've got to tell you, my favorite from the time I was very young, my favorite hot rod was a 69 Trans Am.
Okay.
They made 591 of them. 8 of them were convertibles. One of those convertibles had a blue top. That's what made it different. All the rest of them were white with blue stripes. I know the car well.
Done a little bit of research on it. All right.
A bit.
Just a little bit.
All right.
But I'd want that bone stock. I'd want it just like it was built from the factory. I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't molest it in any way as far as hot rodding a classic like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings up another question. So are you more of a purist and wanting to keep the cars how they came off, or hot rod, rat rod?
Well, someday, hopefully not in the distant future, a little closer, I'd love to build a resto mod. And, some old body, new chassis, new everything else with all the bells and whistles on it. I ran into a guy at, I'm not going to say the name of the car show or the event because I'll mess it up. But this guy had a 56 Chevy that was absolutely stunning, robin egg blue and white. And the only thing on that car that was from 1956 was the sheet metal. Mm-hmm. And the engine had plastic valve covers made to covers for the valve covers that were painted to the blue and white, and it said Bel Air across the top. So it was just awesome. What a great car. Mm-hmm. So that's a resto mod, and that's what I want to build. And I want to build something old. I found something recently. It's a 31 Plymouth sedan delivery. What a cool little truck, And I could picture that painted black with the SWAPIT Fast all over the sides of it, rolling advertising like they did in the old days.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
But it would have to be a resto mod. I'd want to be able to drive that thing from here to California and back and everywhere else. Mm-hmm. Not have to worry about the 31 Plymouth breaking down, because you're not going to find parts for it.
No. And that's the one thing with, our 32 is I'm putting a small block in it. So if it does break, because I'm going to drive that truck, and if it does break, I can pull into any parts store and get it.
Yep.
So, what is SWAPIT Fast?
It started, the idea for SWAPIT Fast came to my buddy Jim and I. We were at a swap meet in Iola, Wisconsin. It's quite a famous event. It's been going on for many, many years, the Iola Car Show and Swap Meet. And they have 4,000 vendors there. We went there. We were only going to be there. It's a 3-day event. We were only going to be there for 1 day. And we were going there looking for a steering gearbox for a 62 Chevy Impala. We walked into this place. 4 or 5 hours of walking in the 90-degree sun. We were spent, man. We didn't get to enjoy any of the event. We didn't get to go to the car show. We didn't see the car corral.
Yeah.
We spent the entire day looking for that part. Well, we got to the point where we were like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And we started looking and looking and looking for any way to try to find these parts online that were connected to the swap meet. And there was nothing. And we got home and we searched some more, and this idea started to percolate in our head about how we could do this. And that's where the idea of SWAPIT Fast was born, was to be able to connect with vendors at an event before, during, and after an event. 24/7, 365. So that we could make that connection before the event. Ask the question. I'm looking for a 62 Impala gearbox, steering gearbox. Send it out to the swap meet, the vendors that are in that swap meet. Depending on how that vendor fills out their profile, this is the kinds of stuff we carry. Okay. We'll make it real basic. Chevy, Ford, and Dodge. Okay. I'm looking for a Chevy steering box. So the vendors have filled out their profiles. This guy's Chevy parts. This guy's Dodge parts. This guy's, do that with 4,000 vendors. The only people that are going to get that question are the ones that have the Chevy parts. It's not going to go to all of them.
Right.
It'll pinpoint the vendors that are carrying Chevy parts.
Yeah.
The vendor gets the question. He looks at it. If he's got the part, he can then open up a private chat with that buyer. Make their deal. I'm going to be at this event. They make that connection, which is one of our taglines. Make that connection. And they say, "Yeah, I'll be at booth B51," and He goes to the event. Let's say he bought a fender. Okay, he's not going to want to carry that fender all the way around the event to the car show, to the car corral, to the food, to the food trucks, or whatever. You can go enjoy the whole event, which we didn't get to do that day. Then on the way out, he goes and picks up that part on the way out the door.
Right.
He's got the part that he went there for. He didn't have to search as much. It's the needle in the haystack.
Yeah.
Yes.
Literally, and you guys all know what I mean. You know,
Exactly.
SWAPIT Fast is we burn the haystack. We show you where the needle is.
Yep. And I mean, stuff like that definitely comes in handy in the bigger. I mean, we've gone to Turkey Rod Run a couple times now, having something like that. If you're going there to look for a specific thing, to walk through Turkey and walk through the swap meet.
Been there.
Well, and you're missing stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, because you walk by and you get to a point where you're literally just scanning, and that part might not be on top of the pile. You know, if it's a specialty part that he's not even thinking he's going to sell, it might not even be on his table. He might not even have brought it.
Well, that's another neat thing about this is that think of the vendors that push all their stuff into that trailer before they go to the event. They get to the event, they dump it all out, they try to organize it, put it on tables, whatever, and they hope they sell something. With SWAPIT Fast, they could literally build a packing list.
Yeah.
From the questions that they've responded to.
Yeah.
So now they're putting, okay, I got all this already sold, so that's going to be the first thing on the trailer. Now we'll put on what'll fit, what we think will sell.
Right.
And you know that's sold. So
Yeah.
you know that you're going to have a good day before you get there.
Go there with the full trailer and go home with less.
Yeah. And I mean, we did motorcycle swap, and that was the plan. Yep. You know, you plan to not come back with a full trailer. And it usually doesn't work out that way, but
We want to fix that.
And this, when me and you talked about it, it literally, I like light bulbs in my head, because we have that. I mean, there's certain parts that I want to be 54. There's certain parts that I want to be 32 on our cars. And a good, for instance, Gasser Garage on the podcast, I had mentioned I couldn't find outer pivot bolt for the lower control arm. Couldn't find one. Went through parts outlets, couldn't find one. Swap meet, digging around, couldn't find one. Asking people that deal in, 50s Chevrolets. And everyone swaps it to a Mustang 2, and those parts get junked because no one is putting it back. If you have a problem, you just put a Mustang 2 on it. Problem solved. A lot of problems are solved. This,
The purist struggles.
Right. Well, and I I said it on a podcast, hey, I need this part. He wrote me, and I said, yeah. He goes, I put Mustang 2 on everything. He goes, but I have 2 or 3 of them behind the shed. I'll go check and see if any of the bolts are good, and I'll send you one. And he did, and it's awesome. It's on the car, and I can drive the car again. I mean, I was driving the car with it broke,
But it also helped us because, like, we're not trying to, I mean, we're slightly on a budget, you know? And there's a lot of people out there that are on budgets, but they want to have these cool cars to drive around in, but they can't go to all these big manufacturers and pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for one part.
Well, that bolt was $200 and $75 to ship it.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you kidding me? And then I stalled around and ended up, when I spoke with Brian from the Hometown Hot Rodder, he's like, yeah, I can find it. And he called me, he said, there's not one in the United States. And I went, what do you mean? There was just one a couple of weeks ago. He goes, yeah, no, it's gone.
Well, that's another thing that SWAPIT Fast is going to be able to help with. You know, the younger generations, they do everything online.
Right.
They're all very digital. And this is something that my partner and my business partner and I talk about all the time is we want to create a path. We're building a path for the analog people and the digital people. Well, sorry about that.
It's all good.
Anyway, you know, the digital path to the analog world, and I think this can do that. The younger generation, and I think attendance has dwindled. I think attendance has started to dwindle. There's not the excitement that there used to be at a swap meet.
Right.
And we truly want to build something that's going to enhance the experience for everybody involved, the host, the vendors, the buyers, people that just come for the car show, you know. And part of SWAPIT Fast will be a nationwide directory. And we want to get as many events on there. We don't want to have a couple hundred events. We want to have a few thousand events and then some. I know who it is, and I can't answer the phone right now.
It's okay.
Do you want to pause?
No.
Okay. So, I mean, and that's our goal. That was our goal when we started the podcast, was to try to get the younger generation connected with the older generation, because the older generation, for lack of a better way to say it, they're holding the keys to this car obsession.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have a dad or a grandpa that was into this and stayed into it for you to get into it, you're losing it. You know, the kid I had on the first podcast with us, you know, he's I'd call him a car guy, but his family isn't into cars. So when we started working together, he seen my cars and we started talking, and that was kind of, we made a friendship outside of work based on cars. But he's in a place where budget won't allow him to do what he wants to do, because in all actuality, I mean, cars have gotten to a point where, you know, those $250 Model A's that you used to find in fields are no longer there. And the older generation holds the knowledge, and the younger generation, it's hard to sometimes get into those circles. So I have been fortunate that my dad, growing up, you know, we were into hot rods, we were into cars.
I met your parents.
Yes.
That's how we got connected.
And, you know, I have met through buying cars. You know, my 32 came from someone that I consider very, very knowledgeable in this car world. And his group of friends is mostly, you know, Model A guys, you know, or, you know, 59 Mercs. I mean, there's a whole, we went up to a gathering with them, and his yard looked like, you know, it was a 50s car show basically, because that's
awesome.
There was Carry All, which we had him on the podcast. You know, there was a chop channeled, everything you could do, pancake hood, Merc, and then the other side of it was a Merc that looked like it just rolled off the showroom floor.
Very cool.
Literally, he was like, so that car started out as that one. Like, I saw the similarities in it, but it didn't click in my head.
Well,
until
you
he's
top
like,
the chop of that Merc, and it takes on a whole different.
Yes,
What
it
was
does.
it, 16
Personality.
inches he cut out of the
Something
roof?
like that.
Oh,
He even had, it was,
Windows that were 2 inches.
Yeah, and he had a list on the side window that was tall enough with like 19 questions.
Yeah.
Yes, I drive it. I've put 200,000 miles on it. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
it's
been chopped this much.
That's great.
Yes, it's loud. Yes, it rattles. Yes, it shakes.
Yes, I love it.
Basically. And that's what we love to see, coming. I love seeing cars on the road because they're not supposed to be.
Right.
The Mustang, when it first came out, was a throwaway car.
Yep.
You were supposed to drive it for a couple of years, toss it in the junkyard, and go buy another one. Well, now you're seeing 64.5 Mustangs driving around that look better than some of these. Well, they all look better than the new cars because the new car doesn't have any soul.
The new cars all look alike.
And there's not. It doesn't evoke an emotion. Like when we talked about when we took the 54 out, that was really Ashley's first projection into the car scene. Was we're rolling into Market of Marion, and a guy flips around and takes a picture as we're cruising in, and she's like, that guy just took a picture of us. And I'm like, yeah. And we park, and literally, it's a Survivor car. It's got rust. And we're parking it next to a guy that's got $250,000 in his car and drove it there on a trailer, we later found out.
Wasn't that shiny paint causes stress or something like that?
Yes,
Shiny paint causes stress. Yes, sir. But, and people walking up like, oh, is that a 54? Yes, sir. Oh, my grandpa had one. Or I learned how to drive. Or I took my wife to ice cream for our first date in a 53. Or, and it invokes an emotion. When you see classic cars out, everyone has a story. Yep. It might not be that specific car. You also get the guy that I have one exactly like that, which kind of gets annoying sometimes. But because it was orange, or it was blue, it wasn't orange. It was a 4-door, and it had a V8, but it was exactly the same.
Right.
But we're not trying to be exactly the same. I don't, it looks like a turtle car. That's why it's Michelangelo. It's lower than it should be. I lifted it. That car's been lifted 4 inches since I bought it.
It looks awesome.
Thank you. But, and that was when we bought it. I knew loading it on the trailer, and it loaded itself on the trailer. It drove its self off the trailer. It got hung up a couple times, but it did it. But I knew buying that car that there was going to have to be some tweaks made. I didn't know how drastic, but me and her couldn't ride in it when we first got it. It sat on the ground. If you put a passenger in the passenger seat, it sat on the ground. It was so. But we muddled through it, and Ashley got to get work in hands, and it was a good time. And that's what this is all about: is getting in the garage with people that you care about. Dad's truck, his 34 right now, is sitting up on wheel cribs, waiting on wiring to get finished.
Well, that Bel Air that I was telling you about earlier, the guy, I said, that's the most gorgeous car I've ever seen. I said, what's it missing? And he said, what do you mean? I says, there's one part you can't find for that car. He says, yeah, I know. He says, how'd you know that? I says, because you're all missing that one part.
Oh, yeah.
I said, what if I told you we were building something that could find you that part? He was like, you got to be kidding me. I says, if the way we're building it, it'll work.
And it is awesome. So with that being said, so you said that the buyer can set up, or the vendor sets up a profile. They basically list off a general idea of the parts that they sell.
They can even get specific. If they've got something that's really unique, put it in there verbatim what it is. They can do Chevy parts, whatever part.
Right.
But if they've got something really special, a certain transmission or a certain engine, they can list that specifically. If the question comes in for that specific thing, boom, it makes the connection. It makes it right now. Mm-hmm. It doesn't wait 24, 48 hours. It happens right now.
Yep.
That's awesome because
I think Jeff
Jeff did
a little
the Mustang gas cap.
Right.
Yep. And because he had the customer side
And the
then
buyer side,
and then the
or
buyer
the- or
side,
the-
and
Yep.
Yeah.
he
vendor
flipped
side.
between the two. And
It
saw
happens
how quick it went.
instantaneously.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a guy that just recently asked for it's amazing, and most people have never even heard of it. Do you know what a RUP Centaur is?
No.
It's a 3-wheel motorcycle that RUP. Do you know who RUP is?
Yes.
RUP made mini bikes and stuff like that. RUP years ago made it was called a Centaur, and it was a 3-wheeled motorcycle for every purpose, in every way. And he's asked for this particular part, or I think he was looking for Centaur parts in general, but specifically seats. I think that's what it was. Mm-hmm. I happen to know somebody that has those parts, and now I got to go to him and say, you need to become a vendor on our website, and they will connect immediately.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. But I mean, and I feel like too, it's going to get the people, because I mean, we're a podcast, like we are online 90% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, we have our lives, but they're online. But having something like this where you're connecting the people to the swap meets,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even outside the swap meets too, but in the swap meets, it's getting those.
And one of the neat ways to look at this is this is an inventory. It's an analog inventory. There's no, but every vendor knows what he has.
Right.
Yes.
But there's no UPCs or SKU numbers or that type of thing. There's no way he can list all that stuff, but he knows what he has. So if those questions start matching what he's got in his profile, this thing is going to go off like the 4th of July.
Yes. And it's going to grow. I mean, because a vendor has a good experience, which, they can't not have a good experience. If they're on it and they sell 2 or 3 things before a show, they're going to tell the next vendor next to them, like, hey, because you notice, and also when you're a vendor at a show, you get to learn the people that come every month.
Yep.
They become
acquaintances.
They're still your competition if you're selling in the same parts lines. But you learn, oh, that guy has this, and you'll send people. Like, if I don't have something, I'll send you over to, or go try to buy it and sell it to them myself. But, so when the vendor has a good experience, or the vendor next to him sees, like, well, you have these parts sitting over here. What are those? Oh, those are already sold. Well, we just got here. Like, how are they already sold? Oh, swap it fast. And it'll get people and it'll grow, and that'll also help on the buying side. Absolutely. The more vendors you can get on there, one, it's going to help the vendors recycle parts, because I know in dealing with motorcycle parts, you'd get to a point where you're like, okay, I can't buy nothing this month. And you'd have to go to a swap meet and hope you had a killer month so you could buy new inventory. So it wasn't the same inventory.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Or you had so much inventory, because like there were plenty of times, luckily we do know what their side of the table is like, because we were vendors and we're also shoppers now. But like, we wouldn't be able to haul all of our stuff. And then it's like that one person, that one time comes and asks for that one part, and I left it at home. Well,
and that happens all the time. It literally happens all the time. Yeah, I got one of those at home. I'll be here next month.
Yep.
You can.
Yeah.
There's a good chance that's not going to happen. Yep. But so if they can make that connection in advance.
Well, and especially like that works for the Sumter swap meet. I'll be here next month. I'll be here in the same spot. That works in swap meets like that.
Right.
But, the
north?
Carlisle show, it's once a year, or, any of the other Turkey,
Turkey is twice a year.
But if they're not local to Florida.
Right.
You can't go, well, I'll run home and grab that and it'll be here tomorrow. Like,
Well, people come to those bigger events like the Turkey Run, the Hershey, Carlisle events. There's people that come from Europe to get those parts. They can make that connection before they ever get on the plane.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we tested this, and as far as how well these vendors know their inventory, even though it looks like they've just shoveled it on. This guy had a bunch of trim laid out. at this one event, the Pomona event. We went to a Pomona event, and we were looking for the clips that hold for a 1960 El Camino. The tail fin has a little piece of chrome trim on it. I had a picture of that. And what I needed was the clips that hold that piece of trim on. So I'm showing the picture to the guy and telling him it's a 60 Chevy El Camino. And he's like, hold on a minute. And he goes over, he pushes a couple people out of the way because there's this big pile of trim. He starts weeding through it, and he pulls out the exact same piece that I had the picture of. That's how well these people know their inventory. It's incredible.
Yes, and you might not know exactly on the table, or in that case, where it's at in the pile, but you know you have one.
Yep.
You know, the way we did the swap meet was I handled most of the table stuff. My dad handled most of the motor stuff that we had. My mom was strictly the tarp. And because she laid it out, well, it was, you know, and because I'll be honest, I didn't want to get down on my hands and knees and lay it out nicely. Mine probably would have been the 10-foot dump, and it landed on a tarp, and at the end of the day, you fold the tarp up and you stick it back in the bin, and you do it again next month. But my mom would, she would lay it out, because even though the tarp was the cheaper, the $5, the $10, the dollar parts, the worst thing about going to a swap meet for us as buyers is you don't know what's at the bottom of that pile.
Right.
Where if you spread it out, one, you know what you have.
Yep. Because
the little parts, like I could tell you the big parts. I could tell you, we have this size handlebar, we have this. But the little parts, you go buy a parts lot and it comes with a bucket of parts. Every parts lot we ever bought come with bolts that they don't know what went to. They might not even been for a motorcycle. It's going to be the crap that they didn't throw away, but you can. It's like, so with her setting it out, there was times that people would walk up to the table and go, hey, do you have a this? And I'd be like, no, not unless, and she'd pop up with, is it this? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Because she unloaded and loaded it. She packed it. So it was, you learn your parts that way. But a lot of times for a buyer, it's hard to go searching, because 3/4 of the way or halfway through that pile, you done forgot or lost interest in digging around for any more. Did you take your tetanus shot today? I don't want to, I don't want to dig through your crap. But if on Swap It Fast, someone is looking for that part, the vendor knows he's already got it out. So you can walk up and go, hey, you're the guy. You have this. I have the money. Here we go.
Yep.
And we go on about our day.
Yep.
So I believe y'all are onto something killer. And I'm excited to see how big it grows. Because like I said, once more vendors get a hold of it, the sky is the limit for the inventory. You're basically making a giant mall for car parts.
Well, and the guy that wanted that one part, he knows what the buyer knows what he wants.
Yes.
Somebody out there has it.
Yes.
It might not have made it on the trailer to go to that swap meet.
Yeah.
Well, if they make that connection, and if you find your part, if you know your part's there, I talked about being able to do the car show, enjoy the event, before you take your part out. One thing that both Jim and I love to do is treasure hunt. Mm-hmm. We didn't have a chance to treasure hunt. That's cool. When you can go treasure hunting, you know where your part is. Hey, let's go see what else we can find.
Yeah.
That's the scavenger hunt. Mm-hmm. And that's, I get more enjoyment out of that.
Right.
Didn't get to do it. So this is going to allow people to do that also. Mm-hmm. I know guys.
More hubcaps.
I know a guy says, he says, I could go out to every single box out there and find something in that box that I'd want. And I said, well, yeah, that's a treasure hunt.
Yeah, that's it. And it does. It's swap meets have gone, the attendance, they're different than they were even 10 years ago. Because when Dad was into cars and I was still coming up, I remember Webster being huge. And Webster's still a decent-sized show. But 5 or 6 cars in the car show, 10 cars in the car show, it used to be the whole field. They didn't even have parts over on that other side because there was car show going on there. There just doesn't seem to be, and that's kind of our goal, is to try to get people to drive their stuff.
Good catch.
I mean, it doesn't matter for us. It doesn't matter if you have a $250,000 car in your garage. I don't care. If
you're not driving it,
you got a $10,000 car that might not make it home, but you're here with it.
That's cool.
I'm cool. Fingers crossed you make it home, or two or three of your buddies are in cars with you just in case. Like that's cool. But those people that are on that budget need to be connected with people that have parts that aren't $200 for a bolt.
Well, and if somebody in California is looking for something, and the vendor that has the parts in Florida is something small, they can ship it back.
Yeah.
They can ship it too. You're not going to ship a fender; it gets too expensive.
Yeah.
But smaller parts could go that way.
But a lot of the bigger vendors too are at a lot of shows, so you might not be able to get it today. But Daytona's coming up. Oh, okay. I'm going to be at Daytona. It doesn't really matter where you're at. You're coming to Daytona.
The vendor can even put that in their profile, that I'm going to be at the Daytona Turkey Run. I'm going to be at Sumter for the April show, or what, They can list those events. So if people are looking to hook up that way, it's just one more avenue, one more tidbit to bring people back to the events.
Well, and also people that sell newer stuff.
Sure.
I'm not going to call the guy out, but I've been there 3 times. I've been at the Sumter Swap Meet 3 times for the same part.
Yeah.
And I just sold it. You knew I was coming. Like, I talk to you every month, and I'll tell you I'll be here. And I ran into you, which I was late in the day, so I'll give him credit on that. But he was packing up.
Yeah, well,
he was
got
going
rained
home.
out that last day. So.
He was going home. So you sold my steering box. I still need that steering box. And he deals in newer parts. But the light guy, there's a light guy at that swap meet. There's a light guy at the motorcycle swap meet. You had the flathead. Was it Fred?
Flathead Fred,
Tommy, right across the street, or right across the road from where y'all were set up.
Right.
He's there every month.
Yep. Same spot.
And it doesn't. It's advantageous to know the people that are going to be there. It's advantageous to know that you have a customer coming for that part, because at the end of the day, all those vendors there are to sell parts.
Right.
I mean, it does turn into a little bit of a social gathering as well. You running into people hearing, parts that you sold or stuff that people are working on too. But at the end of the day, they're there to sell parts, and the buyers are there to buy parts. So if you can connect them, it's going to be, I'm so excited.
It's kind of mind-blowing to think about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's sad to say, but there were a few vendors that I approached a lot of vendors at this last event that they had, the 3-day event in February here. I was beaten feet in there. I talked to probably 500 vendors, and I had maybe 2 that were like, I've got my own website and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, great. I'd love to see him hook it up. Because, man, he hooks that up, and it'd be awesome.
Sidebar. The guy that doesn't have my steering box every month has a website.
Yeah.
But, I mean, even if he made a profile on SWAPIT,
absolutely,
and then
it could guide it right to your website.
It's like, okay, well, we're at this swap meet. Oh, no, you're not coming here. You live out in California. Well, come over to my swap meet or website.
The vendors can be as vague or specific as they want to be. Mm-hmm. They could make a profile that they would get literally every single question.
Yeah.
So this guy that he could literally, he'd be inundated. And it could steer everything
it's
to
a
his website.
funnel to it's a funnel to everything. Like if you have the part, it's a funnel to get your part sold. If you have a website or a company that does this stuff, it funnels to your website.
Great.
Like awesome, So really it's the vendor themselves it's great for, but the vendor that's not the weekend warrior, the vendor that this is what they do for a living is they travel to shows.
Right.
Because like Webster, we were weekend warriors. Monday through Friday, I didn't really care about parts. If you called me and asked, I would sell it to you, obviously.
Right.
But it was the first Sunday of the month, or first Saturday and Sunday for us. But, guys that are going to these shows that whether they're retired, whether
something to do,
they got
a barn full of old car parts. They can load it up,
and they're going to the show anyway.
Right.
That was when we started this. It was like, do we really want to do a podcast? And I was like, well, we go to shows anyway. Like I'm going to be there regardless. So we talk about it and BS about it by ourselves. Let's talk into a microphone and maybe somebody would like to hear about it, because we plan to make the Pigeon Forge Rod Run this year. I've never been.
Beautiful area.
If someone goes to that show and talks to me about it or wants to tell me about it, well, that's what we're here for. Live vicarious. It's a big chunk of money to go to an out-of-state show, especially if you're towing a car, possibly 2 cars. It's a big chunk of money to just go, yeah, I think I'm going to go. Well, you get there and your car's in Airbnb jail. And that happened in Florida. Literally, the 54 sat on a trailer in the back of the Airbnb because I couldn't get the car out.
It was the same
for 3 days in Daytona. Like, it was... I wanted to hurt somebody. And because everybody was expecting the car there. I'm running into people that I know, and they're like, hey, man, the 54 here? And I'm like, no. And we're walking around the car show, and there's a spot
for your car
that Florida Rats and Rods left for my 54 to come park. And he's like, hey, man, go get your car. And I'm like, I wish I could. It's in Port Orange in Airbnb jail because I couldn't get the car out. But knowing that, we now know to do a little more research on Airbnbs, because it doesn't matter how nice the house is, it still might be on a crap road. Yeah. But if that was the first experience for somebody coming down here,
right,
they may never come back. Because, well, that was my experience. I paid X amount of dollars to get down here, and I didn't enjoy myself. Because how many people, if you were out of town and never been to the swap meet, would have went, well, this sucks, and then just loaded up and went home, not understanding that we still had a good time.
Mm-hmm.
But if no one knows about it, no one
right.
knows that it's still going to be a good time even if you don't have your car there.
Right.
So,
well, the swap meet experience, it needs to evolve.
Yes.
If it doesn't evolve, it will become extinct.
Yes.
And so that's why it's guys like, it's people like you and us that let's put a different spin on things. Mm-hmm. and figure out a better way and connect the people that sit at home on their phones or in front of their mm-hmm. computer looking for parts. This is a different way to get to that swap meet.
Yep.
And hopefully it'll increase attendance. It'll increase the buyer's experience. What a great experience for the buyer. He's got the part. He walks in.
There it is.
Yep.
But then you also get to go enjoy it. You're not searching. Like Turkey, if you take off for a part, you're going to be stuck in the swap meet for those 3 days.
Yep.
You're not going to get to go see cool cars. So now it's a bad experience. You didn't find the part. Why am I coming back?
Why would I go to another swap meet?
Yeah.
Right.
So with this, I got my part. I
got to sit with the guys in the car clubs.
Yeah.
I did that at the Turkey Run last year. I talked to a bunch of the car club guys. What a neat experience that was.
Yeah.
And 4 or 5 of their cars. They'd sit in mm-hmm. It was like a camp. They were like camping out. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's a good time. But if you're searching, if you're beating feet up and down the aisles looking for something, you don't even make it over to the car corral or the car show or to, it's not a good experience. And with this, you find your part. Now you're not looking specifically, you're just looking for something that catches your eye. You do that one day. The next day, you go look at cars, which is what we're all there for anyway.
And go look at the cars that we can't afford to buy. So.
Welcome to Florida.
In the car corral, yeah.
Yeah. But I really, I'm so excited to see where this goes because it is going to be awesome. And I'm so fortunate that however it happened, we ran into you.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely.
I look forward to everything that's going to come with this. Yeah. So with that being said, is there a show or event that you've been to that you've never been to that you'd like to make?
Well, yes, and I've invited you to go with me.
Okay.
That would be the Moultrie event that's going to be the 4th, 5th, and 6th of April.
I will be there.
Hey, we could do this. We could have fun.
I will be there Thursday and Friday. My dad might actually road trip up with me for those 2 days. And then Ashley will be there on Saturday, maybe with my mom.
Hey, and if you show me how to work this thing, this GoPro 12 that I just bought yesterday, and it took me 3 hours to try to hook it up last night. You need to update the camera new out of the box. Okay. And you do that through your phone. Well, Bonnie was with me last night, and she can attest that I was beyond aggravated. The frustration was oozing out of my ears. And I looked at the tutorials. These guys, well, you just do this and you do that, and you hit the button, and wow, you're going. Yeah, that didn't work that way.
We'll take a look at it.
I kept getting error messages and this and that. And finally, they said there was a way that you could manually update it through your computer. Well, I had the little thing that I could put the SD card in. I stuck it into the side of my little tablet, and I'm listening to a tutorial on a guy that's going to tell you how to manual update it. My screen doesn't look anything like his. I can't. I have to be careful what I say because the words that came out of my mouth last night. Yeah. And so I tried to follow, and things weren't saying, they didn't say exactly the same thing. And he did this, and I tried to do that. And I said to Bonnie, I says, I'm done. I says, I'm going to go back to Best Buy tomorrow morning and say, here, do this.
Set it up.
And I took the SD card out of that thing, out of the little jump drive thing, whatever they're called. See, that's how technologically challenged I am. I don't even know what you call this stuff. And I put it back in the camera. I stuck the battery in it. And I hit the power button. It lit up and it said updating. So I don't know what I did. There's no possible way I could duplicate what I did, but somehow I made it work. And now the camera works. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited to take this to events and start narrating and stuff like that.
YouTube makes it a lot easier to get reach out, especially for videos. We have an Instagram and a YouTube as well. The YouTube currently is just basically the lives that we've done and a couple of shorts with my dad's car because Ashley does all the filming. So she was in the passenger seat of the 54. So you can see the reflection of us in the mirror. But that's it. But yes, YouTube has became a necessity of social media. And like Ashley said, we weren't real big social media other than Facebook Marketplace, which ties into Swap It Fast.
Well, it does, but every other marketplace out there is a seller-generated marketplace.
Yes.
They have to take a picture of something. They have to put it on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or some other type of classifieds. Hope somebody trips over it and sees it and says, I got to have that.
Yes.
The chances of executing are low.
Yes. And then you also have to deal with, is it available? Yes, it's available. and then never hearing back from the person. So then
Yeah.
you get frustrated and you take it out on the next person. And then eventually you're just like, screw it, I don't want to sell it anymore.
People that sell on eBay and many of the other platforms, they have to pay. Now the seller has to pay a percentage of their selling price to eBay.
Yep.
With SWAPIT Fast, there's a monthly or annual vendor fee, subscription fee. We don't care how much you make. We want you to make $100,000 this year. You know, we don't want a percentage of that. We're looking at a monthly subscription fee.
Right.
And if you sign up now, there's promo codes that will get it to you really cheap.
Now, you say it's like a flat fee for annual or monthly, depending on which you want to set
Right.
up for. And that's unlimited ads as well, correct?
Unlimited ads. You can put whatever you want in your profile.
As many things as you
Yep.
want. Doesn't matter if it's
Yep.
one thing or 100 things.
Right.
You can put as much as you want
Yep.
on there. Awesome.
Now,
It's not necessarily ads. It's a profile that connects with people that are
Right.
looking. Okay.
Right. It's not an advertisement. There's no pictures. You're not. But now, when if the vendor does connect with the buyer and says, "Yeah, I've got that," they can send pictures back and forth in that private chat.
Right.
You know, the buyer can say, "Yeah, this is the part that I'm looking for. Mine's broken." Okay, whatever. The seller can then say, "Well, this is what I've got. This is what I think what you're asking for." Can send it. So they make that connection there too. You know, that you can visually see. Yeah, that'll work for me.
Yes, that's it. Or that, would have saved us a trip Saturday.
Yeah, you talked about we talked about that before the podcast.
It would have saved us a trip down there because I would have seen that it was rusty. I would have seen that the rails were wrong and all that stuff that ended up coming back with an empty trailer. But not even necessarily. It's not an ad of this is what I have. It's more of this is the type of stuff that I deal with.
Okay.
And the buyer can say, "Hey, I need this," and that person says, "Okay, I may have one of those, or I do have one of those. Let me see. Is this what you're talking about?" Yes. So that'll be awesome to connect people.
Well, if you've got that 427 engine out of a 69 Corvette, you can say, "I've got a 69 Corvette 427, whatever," and list that in their profile. Somebody could ask that question, "Hey, I'm looking for a 69 Corvette 427."
Gotcha.
Boom.
There it is.
It'll make it right there.
Awesome.
So it's not really ads; it's
Right.
description.
It's profiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's really just connecting car guys to car guys,
Bingo.
which is exactly
If it doesn't evolve, it's going to go extinct. So people like you and people like us need to keep this going.
Yes.
We've got a great team put together. We've got an IT group that is doing a great job. We've got a social media person that's doing a great job. You keep telling me to quit tapping on it.
It's okay. Desk bombs are fine.
We've got an incredible team behind us. We didn't do this by ourselves. We're a couple of old guys. We needed some of the younger generation to help us build this. My brother has been in computers for 27 or 28 years, so he understands how software is built, and he knows all the jargon. I'm lost, okay? But, we put him with Jim's daughter, Shannon, and she's a great front-end IT person, so the two of them have done a fantastic job. Tara, with our social media, she's putting a lot of stuff out on Facebook, on Instagram, and the recap of Sumter that she's got on there is pretty amazing. She's doing a great job. Everybody in the crew is. Everybody in the crew is.
And on Facebook and Instagram, you're just listed as SWAPIT Fast. Awesome.
But no, I think Instagram is at SWAPIT Fast.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Yeah. I'm a dinosaur, okay?
Well, we'll have everything.
Yeah, it's just Swap It Fast on Instagram and Facebook, I believe.
Yep.
That'll be SWAPIT fast to search.
Yeah.
But
So Instagram is all one word, Swap It Fast, and Facebook is Swap It, one word, and then Fast.
And your little logo,
which will be the cover photo for this podcast.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So they'll know what they're looking for.
So
That's great.
So what show do you try to make every year, whether it's to promote this or just a show that holds a special spot in your heart that you always try to get to?
We got to go back to Iola. That's where this idea was born. And Bonnie and I made it there last summer. It's generally in July, and so we'll be there this year too.
Yeah.
But there's so many of them. There's Jefferson. There's the Carlisle events. It's not just one event. There's Carlisle events all up and down the East Coast and Mid-Atlantic, whatever you want to call that. Pennsylvania, Florida, Lakeland.
We went to the Carlisle auction last year in Lakeland.
We were there too.
And we didn't cross paths. We
Nope.
probably did.
We probably have, yeah.
But we just went, we at that time it was I think Dad was looking for a car. He had just started looking for a car.
When we went to Carlisle?
Yeah. Or did I even have the 54?
We didn't even have the 54 yet. We literally, I think it was just one of those things that we heard about it and we're like, we got to go check this out.
There was a vendor at the motorcycle swap meet, Webster, and he was a veteran. He had a veteran organization, and they were doing a pancake breakfast, and I'm fat and I like pancakes, so we went to pancake breakfast, and I try to turn everything into car events.
It's easy to do.
So like everything that we do, like even we have a trip coming up that has nothing to do with cars, and I am bound and determined to find somebody in Indianapolis that I can go talk cars with.
Well, we go up to Pennsylvania for a funeral, and we go to the Philadelphia car show.
Yeah, I try.
You can always work that out.
Yeah.
As soon as he says, "Hey, we got to go do this."
But honestly, it was the silver lining on the weekend because I still have all those hundreds and hundreds of pictures on my phone, and I still gives me goosebumps because I saw the most gorgeous Mustang.
She got to see before the Dark Horse. The new Dark Horse Mustang.
Oh, okay.
It was there, and it was the
small
blue lights
obsession.
and everything. Ford did a very good job in that display because it does not look like that in normal lighting.
I've seen pictures of it. That's all I've seen.
It looks really
It doesn't
beautiful,
do it justice.
but it does. The picture, the display was gorgeous. Seeing it in natural light, it doesn't look like that. The paint is still a pretty color.
Yeah.
But they oversold it.
Well, you were talking about going to Pennsylvania looking for a car show. That's another neat thing. You can go on Facebook in any of the car club or car club pages. Hey, are there any events going on? Here or there, whatever. There's no list of these things, so that's going to be another part of Swap It Fast. Is these hosts will have the opportunity to list their events. And like I said, I don't want 100. I don't want 200. I want 10,000.
Yeah.
I want 10,000 events in there. So you're going to go to Alabama to visit your grandparents, whatever. Hey, we're going over here. Let's see what there's any events. Yeah. And you're going to be able to find them.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much how the Pennsylvania trip went. We went, she got to say goodbye to her grandma, and I never met either one of them. So I got to be the person in the car that, was there for her. And when we got back to the Airbnb, it was like, okay, well,
now what?
What do you want to do now?
we're still up here for 3 days, and I'm like, it was touchy because she had moved down here 12 years ago.
We're in 2012. Yeah.
So
12 years ago.
I didn't want to take away from that, so it was kind of letting her run with it. And we went to the archery store because I like to shoot archery.
Out in Lancaster, and it's beautiful country out there.
So I got to see my first Amish people riding on buggies and an Amish.
You haven't been to Sarasota?
No, they have Amish down there too.
Oh my gosh, they're everywhere.
And so we were just kind of coming back from that, and she's like, "Hey, I'm a really big Philly cheesesteak fan."
Oh,
so
double it up, brother.
So I was like, "Well, I want a Philly from Philly," and I created that too big in my head, and I was not impressed.
It was good. It wasn't like, oh my God, you have to go here. And there's two places across the street from each other, and they're both packed. They both,
Yeah, it was good.
It was good.
It was good because
it's something that you have to do when you go to Philly. Period.
So I was like, so we were going there, and Ashley's like, well, the Philly Auto Show's going on, and I was like, I mean, we could swing in.
It was like $20 or something to get in, and there was parking like right across the street, and
like it was a perfect.
All the stars aligned.
Like, it was good.
The yellow brick road was right there,
and we got to talk to a couple builders and stuff like that. That because you follow these people on social media, and you're never going to run into them, or it's unlikely that a little tiny hot rod shop or custom shop is going to truck down to Turkey unless they're invited or, some reason to be here. Like selling parts on SWAPIT Fast.
That's what I'm thinking.
But so you get up to these shops that, they're 3 or 4 states is basically where they're going to live because, it's hard to travel with,
Absolutely.
So I got to see a bunch of cars that, I've seen on social media or met people, and this podcast has afforded me that ability as well. Zach Parks with Wire Customs. I've followed him. I love what he does. I had him on the podcast. And it connects people, and that's what I feel like. That's Swap It Fast is connecting people. We're trying to connect people as well, because literally the world has changed to a cell phone or a TV screen or an iPad in everybody's faces that you don't get a chance to sit down and talk to people, and you lose connection.
Absolutely.
You're
buying from
I can talk to you over the phone, but I know for me, if I'm on the phone with somebody, after about 10 minutes, my mind's wandering. So whether I do it in here, most of the time if you're talking to me in the podcast room, because my phone connects to that and I don't have it in my hand.
Right.
So I don't want to go, I'll just turn you on speakerphone and Marketplace or something over here or look up this. You're not focusing. And that's what we've lost. We've lost that communication. And unfortunately, it's the younger generation that's causing it. But getting to talk to people in person and looking at somebody, they're paying attention. You see the subtle. You see it's an awesome experience. And car shows give you that. You get to go talk to people that literally have been in this for a long time. Some of them are 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th generation hot rodders. And I want to hear your story of how'd you do it back in the 50s? And cars are coming out, the uncertainty that just got found after 50 years.
Right.
Like,
I think he's going to need some parts.
And we want to be there.
And that's the thing. And this is, it's going to be awesome. And everything surrounding this it's going to be an awesome experience. And I look forward to seeing how big y'all can get, because at the end of the day, we have the same goal.
We do.
And that's growing this as big as it can go, not for, I'm not going to try to buy a yacht. I'm not trying to,
nope.
But I want to connect people, young generation, old generation. I was that kid with the Hot Wheel. I was that kid that, walking around with his hands behind his back because my dad taught me right. And people going, hey man, you like that? Get in it. And sitting in cars that at that time were iconic, because you don't see them every day. You don't see a Pro Street 69 Camaro every day.
No.
Unless you own one. You don't get to see, Bonnie and Clyde gangster cars going down unless you own it. So going to these car shows, seeing what people did to accomplish a problem, to fix a problem, seeing what they did, a 50 style build. Yep. They're still out there.
Sure.
They're still running around 70 years later. They didn't have CNC machines. They didn't have benders. They didn't have, it was, that piece of metal needs a little bit more bend. Squeak, squeak, on your knee. And
fabrication is
close.
fabrication is taking on a whole new meaning these days.
Oh, yes.
It's incredible.
But there's also old school tricks that you can't duplicate.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's guys out there, and I'm going to run into it with the 32. That truck is going to be bare metal. And somehow I got to get real good at welding, because right now I'm not exposed weld guy, but I will be by the time I get done with it.
There you go.
And the beginning of the project, I'm going to be a grinder. By the end of it,
you got to start somewhere.
By the end of it, I hope to be a welder. But even, you know, I had questions on that truck. You know, the windshield needs replaced because it looks like somebody flew through the windshield. I didn't know how to get the windshield off.
It was the passenger, by the way.
That flew through it?
Yes.
We're just going to go with that because it's on the passenger side, and it would perfectly fit.
It could have been the driver, though. As small as that cab is, it could have been either person. But, yeah, like, I was getting ready to grind bolts off because I was like, they're rusted, they need off. So I was going to grind. Well, come to find out, there's 2 bolts that if you tilt the windshield up, it all comes off.
They're right there.
And I'm like, oh, But if I wouldn't have asked the question and had somebody that was knowledgeable, I'd have been trying to figure out how to weld a frame back in there because I was fixing to cut it out.
Right.
But
that's how you learn, though, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've made a bunch of mistakes, and I've fixed a bunch of mistakes. But it's a lot easier, and it also connects because the older generation made those mistakes already. So if you can get a little insight on how you don't have to duplicate their mistakes, and also, I mean, we're not here forever.
No.
So them old cars that are tucked away that I'm going to get to that, they're not.
Right.
And eventually, his wife is going to need somebody to pass those cars on, and hopefully, you know, I'm around, and people of the same mindset as me are around to save those cars.
Well, look at the barn finds that are coming out.
Oh, yeah.
They're just incredible. Famous cars that have been sitting in a barn for the last 70 years, 60 years, 50 years, whatever.
Well, certainty was lost.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even like, I know where it's at, I just can't get it. It was gone.
Yep.
But you're starting to see some front engine dragsters that the guys know where they're at. But people are starting to say, okay, I'm not going to get to that. And that's, those people are going to need parts. Those people are going to need knowledge. You know, the uncertainty, I love how they did that.
Absolutely.
I love that they found it and they brought it to the Grand National Roadster Show exactly the way that they pulled it out. I don't even think they washed it.
The dirt's worth a lot of money, dude.
You know, but they could have, you know, Galpin Motorsports is capable of redoing that car, and they're going to. It could have been found. They could have tucked it in their shop. No one would have known. And it could have come out, and it could have been fully restored, and everybody would have jumped for joy.
There's the shock and awe.
Oh, yeah.
Thought there.
But, you know, like the Golden Sahara, when it came out restored. That's not how they found it.
No.
You know, which doesn't take away from the fact that it's a beautiful and amazing car, but how much work did you have? How did it survive? You know, I'm a big Survivor guy, obviously.
Right.
You know, and you have, you know, and then there's builders out there that are duplicating cars and putting their own spin on it. You know, Voodoo Larry with the Voodoo Sahara.
Right.
It's a cool car. And he cheated a little bit in the fact that, you know, he had that car as a reference. It was found, and he used it as a reference. But it's not cheating. It's using what you had to build it. And both of those cars are amazing cars. I would love to see both of them in person. And I hope to meet Voodoo Larry at some point in time, because what he does is amazing. And those builders are out there.
Absolutely. You
know, and there's small shop guys. You know, we had Justin. he was on, has a really cool 53. I would have lost money because I thought that car was on bags. That car is lower than my 54, and he drives it around in pothole-infested Pennsylvania, right?
No, north, not Connecticut, Massachusetts, somewhere up way north.
Somewhere near the
north.
Factory 5, because he works for Factory 5. But that car is, I mean, it's cool. And he's slowly doing work on it, which is exactly what we what we preach. And the uncertainty isn't everyone's cup of tea.
Right.
No pun intended. But we don't. I preach, build your car for you. If you don't like it, you don't have to look at it.
Right.
But I'm not going to build a car for somebody else, because if I don't like it, then I'm going to be the person that I dislike, and I keep a car in a garage that I don't get to enjoy. I'm going to build it the way I want to build it, and if you don't like it, it's easy for you to turn around and go over there with your opinion.
Yeah. But then that's where Swap It Fast comes into play.
Yep. Build it the way you want to build it.
Yep. I'm just trying to see here something here you asked about favorite cars.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
We love to see. I already have the Mustang pulled up when we're done. Because I was like, I gotta show you the pictures that I got, because it was they had like blue lights pointed at them, and it was gorgeous.
I'd like to have something like this resto modded. It's a 54 Buick Skylark convertible.
Oh yeah.
There were some things on that car that you just don't see them on any other car. Mm-hmm. And there was at Mecum. I was at the Mecum event last year, and there was one there that came across the block, and I had to hold my chin up so it didn't hit the floor.
Yeah.
Mecum and Barrett Jackson have single-handedly raised the price of all classic cars.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But then you go to some of them, and the cars do not bring money that they should. The gentleman that does C10 Talk, can't remember his name, but he built Yellowstone. Yellowstone?
I don't know.
I believe it was Yellowstone was the name of the truck. But it was an original camper special C10. And it was ridiculously nice, and it sold for about 1/10 of what it should have went for.
Wow.
Yeah.
The guy that bought that truck actually ended up telling him he would sell it back to him for half of what he thought it was worth, because he sold it no reserve, and I want to say it was under 20 grand he paid for that truck, and It was a nice C10. So, what is one piece of advice you would give someone trying to get into this car culture?
Find the car that you really like, and strive for that car. And of course we all want you think of something like a 68 Ford Shelby KR 500 or something like that. That's unattainable. So buy the plastic model and put it together, paint it the way you want. Yeah. But find a car that you like and just start to tear it apart. It's already broken. What are you gonna do? Break it? So literally. So have fun with it. Mm-hmm. I've been working on cars since I was a kid, and I've always enjoyed it. Yeah. And I'll have my '69 Trans Am someday or whatever, and drive it. I will drive it. Yep. Build it to drive.
Yeah.
Show it off. Mm-hmm. Get with your friends. Do a car cruise. Start a car cruise.
We are trying to put something together. We have something in the works for that I'm just trying to get a couple more things in line, and then we will have probably a monthly, a breakfast cruise or something for the guys around here, because we know the cars are out here. They're tucked away. They don't know about it. You run into cars every once in a while, and unfortunately, like I was telling you earlier, I'm in the county car. I'm in a county shirt. I can't really like chase somebody down. There was a Roadster pickup truck, and I took a picture of it, but that's all. I give him a thumbs up and like hope I catch him at the red light, and I didn't. But he was just out cruising, and so their cars are out. We just have to find them, and I think a public place, you know, if you see someone drives by, whether they're in their classic car or they're daily, and they see 4 or 5 cars there, and then a month later they see 4 or 5 cars there, eventually it's going to be 10 or 12 cars, then eventually 20, 30 cars, and then eventually, hey, business, you need to shut down because we're bringing in the whole restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we have big plans for our year, which we're a month and a half in, but that's going to be a big, you know, I don't know if we're going to be able to incorporate swap meet into it, but it'll definitely be a little car cruise in. I'm not a big one for actual car shows with trophies, because I think that kind of takes away from what it means to me.
Sure.
You know, hanging out, talking about your cars. You know, I feel like you go to some of these car shows and, oh, well, my car didn't win a top 25. Well, is that why you're here? Like, here, I'll give you my trophy. Like,
some people are, and that's okay, and that's what they do. That's what trips their trigger.
You know, and
go for the trophies.
Yeah.
But to me, when we pull in somewhere, I don't expect to win anything other than a good conversation with people that enjoy what we enjoy. Or if you don't enjoy what we enjoy, tell us why you don't enjoy it. I'll listen. Mm-hmm. And if it's not too outlandish, I'll stand there and listen to it. You know, if not, then hey, we're probably going to disagree. But to me, anything that gets you involved in this, do it. You know, I don't like squatted trucks. I don't like trucks on big wheels with little tiny mud tires. Right next door. But if that's what's going to get them to enjoy their vehicles,
it gets them out.
It gets them out. You know,
I still don't understand that Carolina squat thing.
No, they're both right next door. But you know, they have big billet 24-inch wheels and mud tires. I don't get that. But if
still give them the thumbs up as they pass on I-4 going to the same car show.
You know who it is, right?
Oh, yeah. you can't miss that.
No, and his truck's probably got, I'd say, $60,000 in lights. Wow. Wheel well lights, and his grill lights up and
the whole.
Yeah, if he turned on his lights right now, it would be like daylight outside.
Yeah,
it's all and it's awesome. He likes it. That's good. I don't know.
It tickles his fancy,
and
that's all that matters.
You know, rat rods. If rat rods to a point, you know, I get the rat rod, and there's kind of a fine line. Originally, when I bought the 32, I told the guy it was going to be a rat rod. I was wrong. It's just going to be an unfinished traditional build. Rat rod to purposely make it look like garbage or ratty, I don't like. But if that's what you're into, if you like the spider webs holding your headlights on, go for it. If that's what's going to get you to drive your car and be passionate about it, go for it.
Well, not everybody can love everything.
And that's the thing is, I don't have to love it.
Right.
I don't own the car.
Right.
So if you like it,
get it out.
Go for it. You know, we always used to joke in the motorcycle world, if you rode a Sportster, like, oh, that's fine, you can, park in the back. But, it doesn't matter. Get out, enjoy your car. It's your car. If you want big wheels, probably not my fancy, but go for it.
Doesn't have to be.
If you want the little 13-inch Dayton spokes and you want to carry a wheel around while you're hopping and all that, go for it.
Bonnie and I saw a car on our way up here today. I don't even know what kind of car it was. It was a little 4-door sedan that was on. She says, "Look at the little itty bitty wheels on that."
Little 13s or something.
I don't know. They look like golf cart tires on a car. But that's what they like, and they had the red anodized rims, so that was showing it off.
But if that's
would I drive that car? No.
But if that's what gets you going, and also on that same note, the Lolos and the donks and all that, I don't understand. But you best believe if I see one sitting there, I'm going to go admire the build.
Sure. You're going to go talk to the guy. Or girl, whatever.
We went to the Groundhog Gale over in Sanford, and they had, half a dozen lowriders and engraved drive shafts. Engraved under the hood. The whole firewall's engraved. Gold-plated this, gold this. And I'm like, it's not my thing. But the fact that... And there was no trailers. Like, they drove them.
They drove them there.
Mm-hmm.
It probably took them an hour to get them clean. But if that's what gets them out, cool. You know,
when they need parts, they need to look at SWAPIT fast.
Yes, they do. and a lot of those cars are, you know, those cars, because most of them have been hopped to death, they need those parts.
Right.
You know, I mean, 64 Impalas and, you know, 71 Caprice Donks. I mean, most of them have died a horrible life. Because that's what they do with them, and that's part of their passion. Yep. And if that's what you want to do with it, go for it.
Hey, look what the Dukes of Hazzard did to the Charger.
Yeah. And that's why you can't touch a Charger now. But, you know, and anything that you do to your car that makes you happy,
do it.
You know, if you want to put a big sound system in it, go for it. Sound system won't work in any of my cars. They're too loud. Whether it's exhaust or rattles, but, you know, it is what it is.
You just listen to a different kind of music.
But, you know, and we see it all the time. And being of our generation, when we walk up, not majority of the time, but a lot of the time, when we walk up to somebody that's more me walking up to somebody and try to carry on a conversation, they kind of blow us off in the beginning. Because it's just some young, you know, crumb snatcher that don't know nothing about it, or they're insulting, or we think that everything should have big wheels on it. Well, that's not us. And then I talk to the people, and by the end of the conversation, usually we can at least agree that we're both passionate about the same thing.
You bet.
Because like I said, I don't care what you do.
Cars don't see age. You know, they designs and stuff like that might be a little bit different, but cars can make that. They do make that bridge.
Yeah.
That generation bridge.
And also, I mean, the things that, and my dad, it's been a while ago, but we were sitting out in his carport and a truck come by. And you could tell he had the muffler cut off of it, and he's giving it the beans. It sounds like it's hauling ass, but it ain't going nowhere. And he, you know, I was like, wait a second. Didn't you used to cut the muffler off of everything? Yeah. It's the same thing, bud. Like,
well, notice that.
And the old and the generation prior to you was screaming and yelling at the same thing that y'all were doing. We just do it differently.
The one thing I don't understand is that I guess it's just for the noise. There's a way to tune a car where it's a snap, crackle, pop type.
My truck has it.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a computer tune?
Yes.
Okay. It sounds like it's backfiring and everything else. You got one of those, huh?
I don't. Mine doesn't do.
I'm sure glad you're not my next door neighbor.
Mine. Yeah. I'll fire it up for you, Luke. No, that truck has it's like an add-on. So I have rumble, which makes it sound like it sounds less diesel and more like a deep, because it doesn't have a muffler or anything on it. Uh-huh. It's a straight pipe back from the turbo. And then there's a whistle that shuts the VGT, and it literally just sounds like a jet engine sitting out there.
Yeah. But like I'll be in here in the morning and he'll be out there and he'll start it up, and like you can hear it. I mean, it is a big diesel truck, but it's not obnoxious. But then again, we live next to 2 diesel trucks as well that do the same thing.
Yeah.
So
the one's a Power Stroke, so it whistles ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then the one is a baby Cummins.
Yeah. And but it's not obnoxious. Like
It's not, but it is 5-inch straight pipe from the turbo to a 7-inch tip. So it is. It's noisy.
I've got a 4-inch straight on my 6.5, and that's a V8 diesel. So I mean it. If you put your foot in it, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's
The only thing the only time that truck gets kind of annoying is around 80, 75, 80. If you're at a constant speed, you get you get a little bit of a drone. So just do 85, 90, and then you don't have that problem.
no drone.
Or let her drive it, and she'll run what you brung.
We don't need to talk about that.
Man, we picked that truck up, and we drove to Alabama to go get the truck, and I was exhausted by the time we got up there and dealt with everything. And so coming home, I'm like, all right, we're up on the interstate, babe. Just
Let her rip.
let her ride, and I'm gonna take a little nap. I wake up, and she's in the middle lane, and there's cars on both sides of us headed in the direction that we're headed, but we're passing them like they're sitting still. And I'm like, man, I said,
I mean, it's a big truck. You've seen it out there. Like
Alabama,
the hood is at the top of your head.
Alabama is very, very speed conscious. So if the speed limit is 65, we're doing 64. So
how fast was she going?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
So I'm like, and I'm thinking, all right, well they're probably doing the speed limit, and she's probably doing 10 over, and because I just woke up, maybe I'm a little off. So I peek over, and we're doing 90. And I go, hey, you might want to slow down. She's like, I'm not going that holy. And I'm like, yeah, it's a little bit.
The truck rides very smooth.
It does ride very smooth.
It's different than a car.
And everybody was getting out of my way.
Well,
so
yeah.
I'm just going.
The big ranch hand bumper and the fact that, the ranch hand is in their back window. They were moving.
They were moving.
It's first and foremost, it was.
You were biblical that day. You were Moses parting the water, huh?
Pretty much, but there have been times where when I did drive to work, I drove down one back road for 90% of the trip. If there's no other cars, I will look down and I'm going 50 miles over the speed limit just because of how smooth the ride is.
For as big of the truck as it is, it rides really, really
I also
smooth.
have a left foot. So.
She's looking.
Well, and yeah.
You're looking at me like that's just a normal day.
Yeah.
But even getting up, jumping on the interstate with that, you coming from, we traded in a 0.5-ton gas motor for it. So you get on the interstate and you go, the V8 you hear. You don't really, that one doesn't do much spooling. It just, all of a sudden you're at 60. So it's like, oh, okay. And you're not used to it. And that truck's a little modified. Which at that time it had a different tune in it. And it was 800 horse. So it doesn't take much to motivate it. So she's just zipping and I'm like, okay, pull over.
Motivated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Pull over.
I've never heard it put quite that way, but okay.
Doesn't take much to get her going. But so with that being said,
and don't forget, of course, go to our description where you're going to find the link to Throttle Addict, where if you use the code word Hot Rod, you get 15% off. They have great shirts, hats for guys, women, the whole kit and caboodle. And
also we would like to welcome Swap It Fast. Yes. Which their Facebook and Instagram will be in the description of the podcast and also in the description on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Thank you very much for having us. I've enjoyed this.
Thank you for coming.
Thank y'all for coming on.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.